Standing here with Benjamin Klebost from Zero, and you told us about the Norwegian market and the insights of it. How many cars are sold now a year on the SEV in the Norwegian market?
Well, last year in 2013 there were about 8,000 EVs sold, and so far this year it's the same number, so we can kind of assume that we'll double this year. And okay. It was also doubled from 2012 to 2013.
Yeah, so doubling every year, and then it was 6% of sales last year, so it will be 12% of sales this year.
Depending a little bit, of course, of how many other cars we sell, but yeah, in roughly speaking.
Okay. And you have a very limited amount of incentive which the Norwegian customer gets when he buys an electric car. Give me some.
Well, you can. First of all, you get tax breaks, no VAT, and then you can drive in the bus lane. You have free parking. You can even take the ferry for free, and free charging. So basically, lots of good.
Free parking everywhere, free ferries, free toll, great tax break. If you buy a Tesla Model S, what kind of car can you buy in Norway for the price that you pay for a Tesla Model S?
Well, you can probably get an expensive Volkswagen Passat for the same price as a Tesla. So even though the Tesla compares with the cars like the BMW 5 Series or something like that, you see that people who normally maybe would buy a Skoda Superb actually are looking into a Tesla because it pays over a few years. And of course they want to buy a Tesla. That's a big...
Yeah, they sold 3,000 Teslas in the first 3 months. Here it's unbelievable. About 3 times more cars were sold in the first 3 months than all of the Netherlands last year. And that was a top year, and we were doing really well. So you're completely a Tesla country. Are the people who buy Teslas, are they environmentally friendly, motivated?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that even though the Tesla is selling really well in Norway, it's a Nissan Leaf that is the most selling EV still.
Last year?
Well, yes.
Last year, but I mean, I think this quarter, the first in 2014, more Teslas were sold than the Nissan Leaf.
That's probably true, yeah. And well, I think the people who buy the Teslas and other EVs, they are concerned about the environment, but also, of course, they see that they can buy a car that they actually want, that is a pleasure to drive, and at the same time, it saves them money.
Yeah, that's true. So, if you look at your neighbors, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, how do they stack up in terms of incentives and sales?
Well, you can see, especially from Sweden, that they don't really have any incentives. It's very cheap to buy an ordinary car, and that's the big difference. In Norway, we have high taxes for fossil-fueled cars, and in Sweden, there are no taxes. So that's the starting point that they have that is different from ours. That we can give tax breaks to EVs that they can't do in Sweden. In Denmark, the situation
high taxes.
Yeah, it's similar to the situation in Norway, but they are not in a position to be able to give quite as much incentives as in Norway. So for now, in these few years of the new EV area, so to speak, it can seem as it's necessary to have very strong incentives to get this party started.
Yeah. You really have to give them a lot more incentive than cost. The cost savings have to be bigger. You cannot make the price equal. You have to do more than that to basically compensate for ranges or something.
Yeah, for range and also some uncertainty. You don't know how much your car is going to be worth in 5 years maybe. But at the same time, if this really starts taking off, how much is your new diesel car going to be worth in 3 years? Who knows?
Nothing, yeah. Hey, the political coalition, which basically gives these fantastic incentives, how strong is it? How long will these incentives last?
I think it's a very strong agreement across party lines in Norway that in the future it will be, or it should be more beneficial to buy an electric car than a fossil-fueled car. That doesn't mean that it should be as strong incentives forever as it is now, but over time we should normalize EVs in a way that keeps them coming into the market and phasing out all the fossil-fueled cars.
You think that will last till 2020, that coalition?
Well, it's a struggle that you would need to take every day, basically. You never know, but.
And you also had these measurements are in place till you hit 50,000, which is, I think, next year.
It could be next year, yeah. So that would be probably way too soon to do anything drastic with the incentives without risking that the sales go down. But of course, you have issues like free parking in the cities, access to the bus lanes, etc., that are not really fiscal measures, right? They have a physical boundary that you need to address somehow. But the other incentives you can kind of deal with in a more political way. You can find money from other places, tax fossil fuel cars more, etc., and balance this.
The budget, yeah. Aren't people irritated? Aren't the normal people, the 85% or the 90% of people still buying normal cars, and the normal citizens, are they irritated about all these electric cars driving on the bus or not parking, not paying for parking?
Maybe. I think if you bought a very expensive petrol car 2 years ago and you see your neighbor bought a Tesla today, that is
for less money.
For less money, it's fancier and it's almost free to drive.
But don't you see it in the press? Don't you see activism that people are against all this EV, giving presents to rich EV owners?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there is some opposition to these incentives. People feel like it's too much, but I don't think it's too much. I think it's necessary to make the transition, this green shift of technology moving. In the future, EVs might not need incentives, and then...
you calculated when the incentives are not necessary anymore. Which year is that?
Probably around the midway into the next decade.
2025.
Something like that. It might not necessarily be that if you remove all the incentives for EVs that everything is fine and people will continue buying them, but we need also to make it harder to buy polluting fossil fuel cars.
Now, in Holland, 90% of the electric cars are bought by business and are plug-in hybrids. Here, 90% are bought by consumers and they are full electric. Are you going to do anything? Is there going to be policy changing for plug-in hybrids, and how is business going to be incentivized to buy these things?
Well, we are hoping to have some measures for plug-in hybrids too, that reduce company car tax, for instance, or even reduced VAT to make it more competitive.
Leasing,
yeah, stuff like that. So basically, it all comes down to leveling out the price difference. I think for EVs, you need a strong incentive, as I said, to compensate for the range and the uncertainty. But for plug-in hybrids, there's no real reason that you shouldn't choose a plug-in hybrid if the price is the same, as we see for the Mitsubishi i-MiEV in Norway. Mitsubishi Outlander. That it costs the same as a non-plug-in version, and then people choose the plug-in version. It's not.
Yeah, that's a good selling plug-in hybrid, relatively.
But it doesn't necessarily fit very well for the other plug-in hybrids. They don't sell that well because they kind of fall between different incentives in the taxation system.
Now, Zero, you're a promotion company to be CO2 reduction. Are you positive about the electric driving future in Norway for the next 10 years?
Well, I think if we manage, we can keep this transition rolling. Of course, it's not the goal that we should have many more cars. We should get rid of the fossil-fueled cars, and then the future for the car is electric mobility, basically.
Thank you.